Hello, my friends. In this episode, we'll see the landscape of American music in the 1940s and we'll meet some of its most important figures. The turn of the decade found the United States entering World War II while still recovering from the Great Depression. The music of that time was mostly like the music of the late 30s. Big band swing music was played in dance halls, on the radio, and was appearing in the soundtracks of many movies and on top-selling records. After the end of the war, this style went out of fashion though, and new styles emerged, such as rhythm blues, jump blues, and bebop. These styles were usually played by smaller groups and featured saxophone or brass instruments. In the early 1940s, the second wave of the Great Migration began, when large numbers of blacks left the South and moved to northern cities like Chicago, seeking economic opportunities. Chicago blues scene at the time revolved mostly around Big Bill Broonzy, Tampa Red, Memphis Slim, and Lonnie Johnson.
Only those in love is the one can understand. Only those in love is the ones can understand. And those who claim it love is never in the man.
The emergence of amplified instruments and the rise of independent record labels were crucial elements for the post-war development of the blues. Old country blues music hadn't declined though, it just spread throughout the United States and abroad. For example, skiffle music in the United Kingdom, which became very popular in the 50s, was based on the music of singer-songwriter Woody Guthrie and predominantly on Lead Belly. Furthermore, in 1949, Big Bill Broonzy appeared in France and became the first bluesman to perform in Europe, followed by many others in the 50s, spreading the blues culture. The popular music in the 40s was mainly jazz music of stars like Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, and Nat King Cole. Jazz and boogie-woogie vocal groups, such as the Andrews Sisters, were also very popular. In this period, there were 3 magazines for people in the music business, such as jukebox owners and record retailers: Billboard, Cashbox, and after 1946, Record World. At the end of the decade, music was divided into 3 main categories: mainstream pop, aiming mid-class whites, country and western, aiming white farmers, and rhythm and blues, aiming African Americans. When famous pop singers like Bing Crosby started to experiment with country music, their songs crossed over to the mainstream, bringing country music to the masses. This era came to be the golden age of honky-tonk music.
I'm walking the floor over you. I can't sleep a wink, that is true. I'm hoping and I'm praying as my heart breaks right in two. Walking the floor over you.
In the 40s, the growth of the radio and jukebox industry had reached such proportions that the president of the American Federation of Musicians declared that the record companies were musical monsters that were killing employment for musicians and banned his members from recording for the industry. The strike lasted from 1942 to 1944 and remains the longest strike in entertainment history. Now, let's meet some of the most important blues and country artists of this decade. Muddy Waters. In 1941, Alan Lomax and John Work journeyed to the Mississippi Delta to find and record Robert Johnson, who, as it turned out, had died in 1938, or their second choice, Elmore James, not to be found. Locals directed them to Muddy Waters as an alternative choice, so they recorded him instead for the first time. McKinley Morganfield, known as Muddy Waters, grew up on the Stovall Plantation near Clarksdale, Mississippi, and played the guitar and the harmonica, emulating the local blues artists Son House and Robert Johnson. He was also influenced by Lonnie Johnson, Tampa Red, Blind Blake, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Memphis Minnie, Leroy Carr, Charlie Patton, and others. In 1943, Muddy Waters migrated to Chicago with the hope to become a full-time musician. At first, he found work backing Sonny Boy Williamson and opening for Big Bill Broonzy, but soon formed his own band, switching to the electric guitar in order to be heard in the clubs. His career took off after 1948, when he recorded the hits I Can't Be Satisfied and I Feel Like Going Home. He got to be very influential, often cited as the father of modern Chicago blues. John Lee Hooker. At the same time Muddy Waters was moving to the capital of the blues, John Lee Hooker moved from Memphis to Detroit, as there was less competition there. Hooker had learned guitar from Tony Hollins and his stepfather William Moore, and got influenced by Charlie Patton, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Blind Blake, and Leroy Carr, among others. In 1948, he recorded Boogie Chillin', which became the first down-home blues to reach number 1 in the rhythm and blues charts. Hooker's characteristic boogie rhythm conflated features from two dance-oriented styles from the preceding decades: piano boogie-woogie and big band swing. Louis Jordan. The king of the jukebox, Louis Jordan, was a talented singer, songwriter, saxophonist, band leader, and actor that innovated and popularized the jam blues and rhythm and blues in the 40s. His first million hit came in 1944 with Ease You Ease or Ease You Ain't My Baby. He dominated the charts for many years afterwards, having dozens of hit songs. Lightning Hopkins. Although Sam Lightning Hopkins began playing the blues from a very early age, his recording career started in 1946. He recorded many hundreds of blues songs since then, influencing B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Muddy Waters, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Albert Collins, and many more. Little Walter. Marion Walter Jacobs, known as Little Walter, was one of the most revolutionary and influential harmonica players in the history of the blues. He released his first recording in 1947, and a year later he joined Muddy Waters, making many more recordings as a sideman. His first hit as a band leader came in 1952 with the song Juke, which launched his solo career. By then, he had developed an amplified distorted sound which came to change the route of blues harmonica. Hank Williams. In 1949, singer and songwriter Hank Williams made his debut on the Grand Ole Opry soon after his major hit, Lovesick Blues. His career took off, recording dozens of singles that reached the top 10 of the Billboard charts. He is regarded as one of the most significant and influential American singers and songwriters of the 20th century. B.B. King. In 1949, Riley B. King began his recording career with Miss Martha King, which did not chart very well. Nevertheless, following his first charted number 1 hit 3 O'Clock Blues in 1952, King became one of the most important figures in blues music. His playing was influenced by his uncle Booker White, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Lonnie Johnson, Django Reinhardt, Charlie Christian, T-Bone Walker, and many more. He became so influential to everyone that he got the nickname the King of the Blues. Otis Rush. Otis Rush, following the migration to the north, moved in 1949 to Chicago to start his career. Inspired by Muddy Waters, he started playing in clubs, and in 1956 he made his first single, I Can't Quit You Baby, which became a hit on rhythm and blues charts. His influences include Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, T-Bone Walker, and John Lee Hooker, among others. Rush was also influential to many guitarists, such as Michael Bloomfield, Eric Clapton, and Peter Green. So, next time, as you can guess, we'll talk about the 50s. Keep in touch!